Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third Arizona Tourism University webinar. This week or this month, we will be covering Tourism 101. With me is Carla, and then also on the webinar will be Jamie Dare and Jessica Dunham. They will be delivering the main presentation on marketing.
Let me kind of set up what we're going to be doing here today. We're going to do a little bit of level setting on analytics around content, and it's going to be a live demonstration. So this is definitely going to be a demonstration of how I am able to do this. So, but before we get started, I wanted to introduce you to Jessica Dunham. We work a lot with Jessica Dunham. She is the owner of Dunham Media. Hey, Jess, there she is. So Jess, give us just a little bit of your background. Like, how did you get in content? What did you do? That kind of thing.
And I was a writer and an editor in the print magazine space for a long time, lifestyle publications, and made my way to tourism. And I was an editor of visitor guides for DMOs all over North America. And I did that for about 10 years. And then from there moved into both doing that as well as online content.
All right. So very quickly, what I was describing is that the Arizona Office of Tourism actually has two different websites. So let's just show you guys. Okay. So we have what we call our industry site. So every agency in the state of Arizona that rolls up, or then every agency has what they call their business site. So this is ours. If you guys have not visited here, I would strongly suggest it. That is where you will find research. You find information about us. You find out about the programs we're running. You find out about partner opportunities. This is not a consumer-facing website. It does not have any paid advertising pointing to it. Social media will point to it in industry channels, but it is not consumer-facing. So this beauty is actually our workhorse. So this is our consumer website. Essentially, all roads lead to Rome. This is it. So all of the different ways that we reach out to consumers point to this website. So that's paid advertising. It is social media. It is PR. It is trade and media. It's the newsletter. Any way that consumers are actually interfacing with us is through this site. So it's very important. Now, something that I think happens, and it's really sometimes just either a lack of money or a lack of bandwidth, but people will say, oh my God, I got to put up a website. And they'll get content on it, and then they kind of like set it and forget it. The problem with doing that is that browsers, Google and Bing, they're going to punish you for that because they also have a business model where they need to feed the beast. And then the beast is new content. So when you are not paying attention to your site and you're not adding more content to it, what they're doing is reducing your organic rank. So suddenly, you know, maybe you were up on the first page and you start dropping and you start dropping. And it's because they are like, you are not adding any value, where there are other people that are promoting the same thing that are doing it regularly and their organic search goes up. So we don't want that. So that's a problem that will become worse. So it is something that you really need to nurture and take care of your website. So in this particular thing, like I told you, we have two different websites. We have a business site, we have a consumer site. So what is the purpose of this site? So the Arizona Office of Tourism is charged with promoting Arizona as a premier travel destination to domestic and international audiences. We are in 5 foreign countries. 3 of them do not speak English. So there are pages on this site that are in German, Spanish, and French. We also are tagged with creating content based on what people want to read. So, and we do that through a strategy where we've identified the people that we're going after, our demographic, and we set up content that's going to appeal to them. So you're seeing this video run. So this kind of shows you a visual version of what our persona is, what our demographic is. Very quickly, it is wild bunch, natural history lovers, foodies, self-care seekers, and luxury audience. So what I'd like to do, and we're going to see if I can actually pull this off, is we're going to do kind of a live demonstration of a wonderful tool that if you own a website or you have a set website, you have access to this. It is free, and that is Google Analytics. Now, the Google Analytics that we're running right now is Google Analytics 4. It is the most current version since the other one was sunsetted. Okay, can everybody see that? Okay. All right, so what I did is I wanted to give you an example. This is just a very, very small portion of Google Analytics, which is very robust. You can go down a rabbit hole with it. But we're always worried about what we should be measuring, especially since in our case, we don't sell anything. So we don't have revenue numbers. So I pulled odd story is we, for whatever reason, we're coming up as in all kinds of different publications and searches and stuff as a hot springs destination. Now, when you told us that we were a hot springs destination, we're like, what are you talking about? It's because we have a piece of content on a hot springs and most people don't. So when you look at this, this piece of content this was from October 14th to January 14th. So 2024 to 2025. We have had 41,000 views on this article. The most important thing at least for us is we are looking at active users. Now, these are people who are actually doing something on your website. They didn't just open the tab and, go heat up their lunch and stuff. They're actually working. They're going through the website, they're looking at things. So the other thing we want to take a look at is the average engagement time per site. So what that means is how much time are people spending on your site? In this particular case, this story. So to give you an idea, our stories are between 400 and 600 words long. So it takes about 2 to 3, on average, depending on the length of the story and how fast you read. It could take you a minute to read, it could take you 2 minutes to read. But the average person will stay on a site reading something for 52 seconds. So what we're noticing here is that these people are staying here for 1 minute and 21 seconds. And then they are moving on and they're looking at other things. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like on the front end. Okay, so here's the story. And you're going to see that we have a list of hot springs that you could go to. Okay, then, the sneaky newsletter sign up that shows up. Then at the bottom, we put additional content on that. So the idea is you already have somebody who's interested in something. So now you want to keep them engaged. You want to keep them looking. Now, normally you'll notice that Castle Hot Springs is here. The Visit Arizona also has business listings. So we'll go back up here. If Verde River Hot Springs had a business listing with us, it would come down here. So it's an opportunity to take people who are really engaged, give them more content, and then of all the things or the businesses that we talked about on that story is to say, hey, were you really interested in going to Verde River Hot Springs? Well, their business listing is down here. So that's really kind of the idea, because like I said, we don't sell anything. So we are high up in what they call the sales funnel. We're in awareness, inspiration, aspiration, and pre-planning. You cannot book a vacation to Arizona on our site. Okay, so let's keep going. So then we did an entire series of local word stories that really addressed a lot of the questions that we get and a lot of the complaints. Like, why can't I go to the Wave? Why can't I get a permit to go to Havasu Falls? When should I go to Horseshoe Bend? How do I hike the Grand Canyon from rim to rim? And you're like, you know what? Let's just do a series of stories. So I grabbed one. This one was called A Guide to Visiting Havasu Falls because it's a difficult destination to visit because it requires permitting. There is also kind of people will say, well, can I just drive up to it and then just walk to the falls? No, you cannot. It takes effort. So again, we are looking from, in this case, October 17th, 2024 through January 14th. So we had 68,000 views during that period of time. We had 36,570 active users. So they're looking at this and they're looking at other things. And the time on site again is, remember, average time on site, like if you're doing a really good job, is about 52 seconds. This was 1 minute, 27 seconds. So this is the kind of stuff when you guys are, if you have an existing website and you're looking at it and you're like, oh man, I don't know where to start, is you start with Google Analytics. You figure out what people are doing and looking for on your site. Data will always tell you the truth, and it's also very defensible. So if somebody comes to you, a stakeholder says, why aren't you blah, 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 or why are we doing this? It's because the data is pointing us in that direction. Okay, so just to seal the deal here. All right, so here we are. Here's the story. Okay, gets into all the nitty gritty. Which, again, you guys, when you do stuff that is oddly specific, when you are putting times or you're putting fees or you're putting anything hours, you have to make sure that you're updating the content regularly because things change. Hours change, fees change. In this case, permitting changed. So it's all here. And then we know that you are a planner. You like to do things the right way. So we say, hey, let's give you a little bit of information on Supai, because that's where you're going to be staying. And then we're going to talk about the tribe, because this is theirs. And then we're going to tell you all the other ways to do things the right way. Now, if this was an article that had businesses on it, then ideally there would also be business listings at the bottom. So, okay. All right. So at this point, let me make sure I covered off on everything that I wanted to say. Oh, last thing too. There is a product. I don't know if you guys are familiar with heat mapping. There is a product called, or a service called Hotjar. So for about $43 a month, you get an idea to see how people are interacting on your site. And a heat map is where it measures clicks and it measures how people are scrolling through. So I pulled up, this is our homepage. Now, all those things that you see are clicks and interactions. And it's not going to work for me right now, but if you were to hover over that with your cursor, it's going to tell you how many people clicked on the Arizona, which will take you to our navigation. It's going to show you kind of what they're hanging out, what they're doing. Okay. They're very interested in the must-sees. We got winter sports going on. And I will tell you that this actually answered a big fight that we had in our agency. So there was a whole idea of why do we put events on the homepage? Because it's way at the bottom of the page. Nobody's going there. So we're like, let's look at the data and see really how far people are scrolling down on a homepage. So we looked at the heat map, we looked at Hotjar, and lo and behold, people are going that far and they are clicking on the event. So that kind of resolved the dispute. So there's so much technology now, you don't have to, play the magic 8 ball or get into huge fights with your staff or your stakeholders because you got the knowledge. Okay, and let's see, I think that is it for me on the analytics side. But absolutely, absolutely, you need to look at Google Analytics. You need to see what's happening on your website, and that will really, really inform your strategy. Okay, all right, Miss, let me get out of here and stop sharing. And then, all right, and then I'm going to kick it over to the expert on content, Miss Jessica.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Thank you, Jamie. I love data, and I think that that was a really helpful way to inform the next stage of kind of what we're going to talk about, which is storytelling. Once you're armed with all of that knowledge about your website and how it's working and how users are engaging with it, then you can do the fun stuff. No offense, Jamie, data's fun. But then
I
you
think
can
so.
then you can do the fun stuff, which is storytelling. And storytelling is really the differentiator between your destination and all the other destinations that are relying on high level, broad marketing speech. That, that we've got something for everyone. Love that phrase, but really what that phrase says is that we have nothing for no one. So that's where storytelling comes in. And you are the expert about your destination. Your destination has a unique story and that you are uniquely qualified to tell. So I think there's a couple questions you can ask yourself before you decide, okay, what content am I going to put on my site? Jamie Deere is suggesting that we put a lot of content on our site. What does that content be? Before you get to that point, there's a couple of questions I like to ask, which is one, what is the story of your destination? What is that story? Are you a destination for water recreation? Are you a destination of Western heritage? Who are you? Kind of that existential question is, what is your destination? Once you have that answer, I think the next question is, who are the people in your destination that tell that story really well? Who are the business owners that are embodying that story? Who and where can you tell a visitor to meet or to go where they're going to experience that story? Once you have that question answered, now it's time to sit down and be like, all right, let's figure out all the ways we can create content around that. And Jamie brought up the guide to visiting different places in Arizona the right way. And I think this is a really nice example of content that is telling the story of the destination, telling the story of Arizona. Also answering visitor queries. Visitors want to know this information. And then finally, it's giving visitors that 360-degree, holistic, comprehensive, truthful version of the story. So with the How to Visit Places series, we were able to tell visitors how to engage with the destination meaningfully. And then we were able to create several spokes of different content that was all related to that one thing. And this goes back to Jamie's point where she was saying, you want to keep your visitors on there. You want to keep them scrolling through. And so once we came up with that one idea, we were able to create, Jamie, I don't know how many stories we have, maybe 10 or something, different stories in that series, which means when a reader gets to the bottom of that one article, they now have 3 more that they can read. And that's kind of what you want to do when you get that story idea. For example, a general story idea might be Mexican food. Great, we want to write about Mexican food. But how do we turn that story idea into 5 meaningful stories that is going to keep a reader on your website? So we recently did this. AOT was getting questions from visitors, which is Mexican food in Arizona queso? No, that's Tex-Mex. What is Mexican food in Arizona? So we realized, okay, we have an opportunity here to tell a story about Sonoran Mexican food. So we took that one very generic idea and we turned it into a lot of content. We turned it into a story that was everything you need to know about Sonoran Mexican food with a glossary of different terms and descriptions of different peppers. We turned it into a roundup of great Sonoran Mexican food restaurants. We turned it into a video where we profiled the chef and owner of Cochina Chihuas in Tempe, a video called Arizona Food Stories. So we ended up taking what on its face could have been a very general story topic, and we turned it into 3 engaging pieces of content that now feed each other, they promote each other, and they market each other, while we're also telling an authentic and truthful story about the destination. We did this
So Jess,
yeah.
oh, I'm going to interrupt you because we decided that we're just going to we're going to free flow here. To Jessica's point, you get inquiries from people and you're like, yeah, that's absolutely something that we can address. But I want you to talk a little bit about how we determined that we needed to give a face to a place. That of all the things, of all the destinations that you could go to, it was a way to say to consumers, you say, well, why should I care? So I'm putting you on the spot here because you really did. You hit it out of the park with this. And I just want to also give kudos to Jessica that she had an entire video series that won Rocky Mountain Emmys. So the storytelling was beautiful. So Jess, I completely ruined your flow and I will show your videos, but can you talk a little bit more about that? Because we're being very prescriptive about answering, visitors, but what else? What else can you do with that? Especially with the stories that live in your community. You got stories all around you.
Yeah, I think me answering that question is actually antithetical to what we did, which is we let other people tell the story. Um,
Yes.
to your question of how do you put a face to a place, it's by removing yourself from the story. It's by saying, going back to my earlier question, which is 1, what's the story of your destination? And 2, who tells it? Who in your community tells that story? Who's living it, breathing it, embodying it? And so when Jamie asked, why should I care? How do we put a face to a place? It's getting out of the office and looking around and walking the streets of your community and finding out who's telling that story. And that was what we did with the video that I mentioned, the Arizona Food Stories video, which is like, okay, if people don't know what cuisine in Arizona is, let's let the people who are growing the thing and making the thing and baking the thing tell us what food is. And so for that particular video, we featured the miller at Hayden Flour Mills, who is growing ancient grains and milling ancient grains. We talked to the owner of Hope's Fry Bread, who is using her grandma's recipes to make fry bread in Mesa. And we talked to the chef at Cochina Chihuas and let them tell us how they brought their Sonoran Mexican recipes from their hometown and bring it to the people. And these are not scripted. I'm not telling them what to say. We're letting them share. And when they do, the storytelling becomes authentic. It becomes personal. And that is what connects, right? Like we all know, like we want to hear someone's real story, and that's what connects with visitors. I like to think about it is like you start with that general story and then you think about all the ways to tell it. The last video that Jamie was showing was a 2-part Route 66 road trip series. So again, in answering the visitors' queries, which is like, how do I experience Route 66? It would be very easy to create one story that says, this is Route 66 and it goes from here to there. But when we think about why should we care and the face behind the place, it's like, well, what are all the ways we can tell that story? How do we turn this idea into 10 stories? And it turns out that it was, again, shining a spotlight on the people who live and work on Route 66, the people who have made their livelihoods there. And we created a road trip video. So there's the call to action. Hey, visitor, take a road trip. But while you're on this road trip, these are the people that you should meet. And these are the people who make this place their home. And these are the people who give this place a heart. And that was the genesis of the 2-part Route 66 video. In addition, it was all accompanied by written content that profiled the business owners, by turn, Route 66 itinerary. Other things that you could do with that would be to create social media posts that are pictures of Route 66 roadside oddities or pictures of Route 66 neon signs. So it really is that nesting doll, as Jamie said, of like all the ways you could create 10 different pieces of content across multiple media about one thing.
And that's the secret sauce. So when you are okay, Jessica, I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some of the worst, the most vapid things that you have seen where you're like, oh my God. So
Well, I don't want to call anyone content's great, right? If it's there and people are reading it and engaging with it, that's a good thing. I think the thing that I warn against, which is what I said earlier, which is that going into content creation with the idea that your destination has something for everyone. I think, of course it does. It absolutely does. It has food and it has things to do and it has outside things, outdoors activities, absolutely. But every destination everywhere has something for everyone. So I think if we toss that idea out the window and really start looking at, okay, well, my destination has this thing for this one person, and now I'm going to create a story around it. That I think is where you're going to create direct engagement, or at least deeper engagement with your users, with your readers, and with the visitor. Sometimes I think we're daunted by video in some ways. We think, oh, it has to be this big, expensive production. And I want to say that the videos that we've been doing for Visit Arizona have been kind of a lean run and gun documentary style video, which is very possible to do with a small crew, and you're still getting the heart of the story. You're still able to capture a destination, and you don't have to do it with a gigantic commercial advertising budget. You can do it authentically and truthfully, as long as you have the right subjects, and you're letting them tell their real story.
So, Jessica, when you go into a destination, like we are doing videos around the state as part of our regions on our website. We've done the biggies, so Phoenix, Tucson, Flagstaff, and that was Greater Phoenix essentially, and Flagstaff and Tucson. And now you're in Prescott. So tell us, what did you do? How did you start with Prescott? Let's start there.
That's a great question. I will go back to what I said earlier, which is I get out of the office. So I do a lot of traveling around the state and putting boots on the ground and just seeing what's out there and being a visitor myself. And if that's not possible to do, then I do the next thing, which is what I did with Prescott, which is I called the Prescott team. I called Visit Prescott and I said, hey, can I have a call with you? Can I have a chat with you? Can you tell me about your destination? What's your story? Who do you know? Who's telling that story? And what I was specifically asking them was, I'm looking at Prescott through the lens of Western heritage. So talk to me about Western heritage in Prescott. And that's what they did. And they told me, they gave me names, they gave me ideas. And from that, started doing my own research. I started calling people and doing interviews. And in 2 weeks, I will be in Prescott in person to meet all of these people and explore all these things. But it all goes back to I'm letting them tell me what the story is, and then I will shape that. I will shine the light where I can shine it and put the microphone up to the people who are passionate and authentic about telling their story.
Yes, and something that we at the Arizona Office of Tourism with our content is because we have natural history lovers, that's one of our demos, is we have a lot of history on our site. We have mining history, we have Western history, we have indigenous history, we have military history, we have the Buffalo Soldiers, we have all of that. We make a decision because Our content is authentic, is if it's historical and it happened, we talk about it. So, and you will see that more and more. National Parks has made a deliberate effort to actually talk about who was there before the parks were. So that is more and more common. So every destination has a complicated history. So we do find, and so let me cover off a little bit on the thing that everybody is either super interested in or terrified, AI. So how many people are, when you're Googling and you're like, how many state parks are there in Arizona? And then Google says it has a response up above and it lists them. And if you keep scrolling through, you can click on the source and then it will show you the source and it will highlight where that particular information is. So I know there is a lot of like, oh my God, AI is going to make our websites obsolete. Absolutely not. Our websites are the book in the library, and AI is the reference librarian. So if you think of it that way, so the quality of your content, if you have a really rockin' library that's got all kinds of stuff in it that is super interesting, people want to know that. And like I said, AI and browsers need to feed the beast. They need to keep you engaged. So as AI, and I know that you guys have seen this because we see it where there is incorrect information there. Something is like, oh, it's on the Coconino Plateau. Well, no, it's not. It's on the Coronado Plateau. It's that kind of thing. So we are helping to build accuracy through our content. So while we continually add and we improve, and our organic search is going up, the AI is figuring out that we are reputable. So we're still trying to figure it out. We're in the midst of building a new website and AI will be part of it. We are investigating what we call a walled garden. So for search results or for itineraries, it is with only the garden of our website. So we want to utilize AI in a way that's helpful, but that we know that it's correct. So I think right now, oh, we got stuff coming. The doc is posting very good in the chat. Now, you guys, we're sitting at 3:13. So we've been doing a lot of talking at you, and in the spirit of letting other people tell the story, we would like you to ask us questions. Unless we did such an incredible job that you've learned everything, and then that's great.
They
Our
can type a question, Jen.
Okay, let's see what we got. So Dr. Jones, I'm sorry, in partnership with UNESCO and Herbie Hancock Scottsdale Jazz Festival, has promoted International Jazz Day on April 30th as a destination for jazz lovers worldwide. I can use Jessica's expertise to tell our story. Very good. Vance is saying this was a great session. Thank you so much. Lots of work to do. Okay, anybody else? Come on. Kimberly James, I see you. So while you guys are ruminating, this is being recorded, so you are more than welcome to listen to it again. Sorry, we had a rough start, but we got there. I'm also going to drop in the chat my email address, and I owe Kimberly some stuff. So let's see, az.gov. We would love to hear, just like Dr. Jones is telling us this stuff, we need to know your stories because we want to amplify that and we want to be able to point to them. So if you are telling the stories, because we're only a team of 30, so, and marketing, we have 5 people. That's it. So we really rely on you guys to help us tell your stories as well.
We got a question from Stephanie.
Okay, let me see. Stephanie, okay. Did you mention where you find the questions you answer? I use Answer the Public. To be honest with you, our questions come to us like it is usually in either a website query or somebody will find our email address and will ask us questions. Or we also do go out and talk to people, and we go to consumer travel shows, and we do have a lot of people that ask us questions. So we're actually the ones answering the questions. So, Stephanie, is that helpful to you? Where you find the questions you answer? Essentially, we get a lot of input from a lot of sources. So, but we also again are looking at the analytics on what people are resonating. And that's the other thing, you guys, I just want to mention is I know that you put a lot of time and effort into your content, just like we do, but sometimes we're not the source. You know, we used to put quite a bit of time into hiking, like a fairly granular amount of time in it. But if you ask a hiker, like our social media manager is an avid hiker, and I said, Jordan, do you come to our site for hiking? She said, oh, no, 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 no. You guys aren't the source for that. So don't try to be all things to all people. You have to figure out what is your mission? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to sell donuts? Are you trying to inspire people to do something? Are you trying to educate? So we have learned because, you know, we have a website, we have all kinds of stuff on it. So now that we did an audit on it, we're like cutting, I would say, a third of the stuff that we have on our site, on our navigation. Nobody is coming us to find out where the rivers are in Arizona. It's not a thing. We can, and the other thing about it is if you get nervous about that and you're like, oh my God, we have stakeholders that require that, you know, we talk about the rivers. That's where you put it in your content. So, and that's more meaningful because if somebody is reading something that's really inspirational to them and they find out, oh my God, you got a river or you have a lake or something and blah, 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 that's where you find it. It's not them clicking around to see all the rivers that are in Arizona. So let your content do the heavy lifting for you. But the last thing is you need to have a strategy. So you want to start out with what you have, how it's working. And then you got to figure out, you got to make a tough decision. It's like Sophie's choice, if anybody knows that, which content lives, which content dies. And then you start building and then you start testing. So it's really a process because remember, the website isn't going away. It may be replaced by some new technology, but it's not going to go away. Let's see.
And
Jessica,
Jamie, oh yes, Jamie. I was going to add one more thing. You had asked earlier about, you know, kind of things that I would steer clear of or egregious things that I have seen in content, and something came to mind, which is an over reliance on or an overabundance maybe on SEO terms in content. So I think you should let your storytelling be your North Star when you're creating content. And obviously we need the SEO terms. You need that. You need to fulfill that obligation. But really like doing the peppering in of the SEO terms just to get them in there, don't do it. It doesn't need to happen. If your storytelling's good, as Jamie said to me, SEO will take care of itself.
the true statement, like forever, it was always, oh my God, you got to make sure you got the terms in there. And if you guys remember back in the day, you would read stories and you're like, what is happening here? It doesn't make any sense at all. So, yeah. And again, the behemoths of the companies, the browsers knew that. They're like, you're not doing your hard work. So yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
and my last point to piggyback on that is again, you know your destination the best. So if you think that there's a story to tell that maybe visitors aren't asking about, or maybe that's not there, like the hot springs thing, go for it. You're the expert. So if you really think that there's something of value and there's a story there and there's a person to tell it, create that content, put it on there, and it could be your, you know, your biggest hit on your website. You don't know, but I would try it.
Yeah, hot springs. Who knew? All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
If you did, if you think of a question later, please email us at Arizona Tourism University's website or email address. It's atu@tourism.az.gov. Next month, we will be doing Social Media 101. Jamie kind of teed us up with that because she was talking about Jordan. So Jordan and Veronica will be presenting on Social Media 101 next month. That will be announced in the next Tourism Tuesday, so be on the lookout for that. Same place to register. But thank you once again for joining us, and we really appreciate your time.